have no home and I no mother, White said the little girl to the young woman at the station. You have no home and I no mother. The words came from a girl no older than 7, standing beside an old suitcase at the edge of the platform. Her voice was steady, but her eyes were the kind that had seen too much. Amara Holt stopped in her tracks. Her hands tightened around the worn strap of her bag, the only thing she had left. The cold morning air moved around them, trains passing, people walking. But in that moment, everything felt painfully still. Amara did not answer right away. The girl looked at her as if she already knew her story, as if she could see every night Amara had slept sitting upright in a shelter chair, every tear she had refused to let fall. Her clothes were neat, but thin against the cold. Her hair tied back like someone was trying to keep her small world orderly, even as it fell apart. The girl took one small step closer. I saw you here yesterday, and the day before. You were waiting for someone, but no one came. Her voice cracked only slightly. Amara's chest tightened. The truth was too sharp to touch. If you want to see where this story goes, stay with us. And if you are new here, you can support the channel by liking this video and subscribing. It means more than you know. 6 months earlier, mornings carried a different kind of light. Amara arrived at her office with rolled blueprints under her arm, her hair tied loosely, laughter following her as her team greeted her. She had built her reputation slowly, brick by brick, through honesty, late nights, and a belief that architecture should serve the people who lived inside it. Her designs were not about prestige. They were about dignity. Homes that breathed, buildings that welcomed sunlight, spaces that felt safe. Investors admired her vision. Communities trusted her. Even clients who could not afford her fees found her looking for ways to help anyway. She believed success meant raising others with you. That was when Damian Cross walked in. He entered like someone who understood elegance without needing to announce it. Sharp suits, kind eyes, an easy smile. He spoke softly, listened carefully, and carried himself like someone who wanted to build rather than destroy. He praised Amara's designs in a way that made her feel seen, not flattered. He talked about expanding their firm, securing larger contracts, offering affordable housing that did not look like charity. They stayed late reviewing models, tracing lines on tracing paper, dreaming out loud about changing skylines and restoring neglected neighborhoods. It felt like partnership. It felt like trust. Damian began handling external communication. He took investor calls, reviewed project finances, negotiated deals. Amara focused on design and client meetings, believing she had finally found someone who shared her values. People started calling them the perfect balance in the architecture scene. She did not notice when he began signing her name on documents she had not seen yet. She missed the slight hesitation in the accountant's voice when he asked about fund transfers. She was too busy building walls that held lives. Problems surfaced in quiet ways at first. Payments that were delayed but already on the way. Construction permits that needed just a little more time. 2 investors pulled out of a community housing project without explanation. Amara tried to ask questions, but Damian always had an answer. Calm, practiced, reassuring, until reassurance turned into deflection. One afternoon, during a project review meeting, an investor asked why the environmental compliance certificate for a waterfront development looked altered. Amara's confusion was visible. Damian stepped in before she could speak. He smiled and said she was overwhelmed, stressed from overworking, sometimes mixing up documents. A gentle laugh, the kind people use when pretending to be kind. Eyes around the table shifted. Doubts were planted. The rumors spread quietly. Amara was emotional. Amara was unpredictable. Amara could not handle pressure. Damian did not start the rumors himself. He simply allowed them to breathe. Soon clients stopped calling. A major contract was reassigned to another firm, then another. Amara tried to confront him in private. She told him something felt wrong, that accounts were not aligning, that project expenses were inflated. Damian's smile faded slowly, replaced with something cold. He accused her of paranoia, of being ungrateful for everything he had done. He said maybe people were right about her. The words struck deeper than shouting ever could. The breaking point arrived in a meeting that should have been a celebration. Their firm was shortlisted for a city redevelopment contract that could reshape an entire district. But during the presentation, the financial discrepancies she tried to hide surfaced publicly. Reporters whispered. Investors avoided eye contact. Damian stepped forward again. placing a gentle hand on her shoulder, as if comforting her. "She has been under a lot of emotional strain," he said softly. "Please understand." In that moment, the room did not see fraud. It saw Amara collapsing into herself. No one listened when she tried to explain. Phones stopped ringing. Contracts dissolved. Her team left quietly, apologetically. She sold furniture, equipment, her office. Her home followed next. The city that once praised her passed her without recognition. By the time she reached the train station, she had nothing left to carry except her bag and the memories of a life someone else had taken. Days blurred into each other in the weeks that followed, but Amara did not allow herself to vanish. She walked through the city with slow breaths, quiet steps, and a mind that refused to stop analyzing. Pain stayed with her, yes, but there was something else beneath it, steady and unbroken. She had built homes that could survive storms. She could survive one too. In the corner of a small library, she began piecing together her life like someone reconstructing a fallen building. Not loudly, not with anger, but with precision. She opened old project folders on a borrowed laptop, traced signatures, compared timestamps. What looked like chaos at first gradually took shape. Emails forwarded to private accounts. Invoices altered. Shell companies appearing in subcontractor lists where they did not belong. Everything Damian had done, he had left a trail for, and he had left it because he believed she would never rise again. No one paid attention to a woman they thought had been broken. That anonymity became her shelter. While Damian attended charity galas and ribbon-cutting ceremonies, smiling into cameras, speaking about urban renewal, Amara sat at a public library desk under flickering lights, sorting through documents. One piece of proof at a time, she printed out emails and highlighted text. She marked discrepancies with colored tabs. She noted dates, certifications, cross-references. Every detail was placed carefully, like she was drafting a blueprint. She had always worked like this, quietly, thoroughly, structural integrity above everything. There were nights she slept on benches, arms wrapped around her bag like it carried the last pieces of her heartbeat. Some nights, she did not sleep at all, afraid someone would try to take the evidence from her. Wind cut through her coat. She grew thinner, but her eyes sharpened, focused, unwavering. Meanwhile, Damian moved through the world like nothing had happened. His name appeared in articles praising his innovative housing initiatives. He posed at business conferences, meeting with politicians, shaking hands with developers, all while wearing suits that cost more than Amara's entire belongings combined. He laughed freely, toasted with champagne, posted photos of ocean views, expensive dinners, and luxury hotel lounges, and Amara watched him from a distance, not with envy, but with a calm understanding. He had built everything on stolen ground. A foundation that would collapse the moment truth touched it. But truth alone was not enough. Proof needed to be undeniable. Evidence had to be complete. She had seen what happened when she spoke too soon. One afternoon, while reviewing documents spread across a cafe table, she traced a line that connected Damian's forged environmental certification to a project proposal submitted to Graves Development, one of the most respected firms in the city, and the man behind that firm, Lionel Graves, had a reputation for integrity that even rumor could not stain. If Damian was planning to use these fraudulent certifications to secure a multi-million-dollar contract with Graves Development, then Lionel deserved to know. And Lionel was someone the authorities would listen to, but she could not approach him with suspicion or accusation. Not again. She needed proof that was not just strong. It had to be airtight. The girl at the station, the empty nights, the fall from everything she once was did not break her. They refined her, stripped away everything except resolve. Amara gathered the last document into her folder, pressing her hand over it as if sealing something sacred. Reaching Lionel Graves was the only path left, but she had to finish building her case first. Only when every piece fit together so tightly that no one could deny it would she step forward and speak. She began tracing the edges of the past, following names that had once been printed on business cards and meeting schedules. Some people remembered her warmly, others hesitated, glancing around as if speaking to her might disturb something delicate. But Amara did not push. She listened. She asked small questions, let silence sit long enough for truth to surface on its own. A junior accountant from a boutique development firm remembered odd invoice transfers. A site manager recalled a vendor who was paid twice for work that was never completed. An assistant from a real estate office spoke about contracts that arrived already signed, though the signatures did not look identical to previous ones. Each conversation added another piece to the structure she was building. Most days she traveled on foot, sometimes miles, carrying her folder pressed close to her chest. She ate when she could afford to, sometimes half a sandwich, sometimes only tea. Nights were spent in community shelters or train stations where lights never fully dimmed. She learned to sleep lightly, waking every time someone walked too close. But exhaustion never pulled her under. It only sharpened her determination. There were days when the loneliness was heavy enough to feel like weight in her lungs. She had been respected once, admired, sought after. Now she was someone the city did not notice, blending into its corners and shadows. Yet she kept going because every person she spoke to, every document she found, every detail she confirmed, brought her closer to the truth becoming unbreakable. Meanwhile, Damian moved through the world with practiced ease, but something in his posture had begun to change. His laugh was still loud, but it held a brittle edge now. His eyes darted more often when someone mentioned old projects. Veiled questions reached Amara in whispers. Damian was asking where you were living. He said he wanted to talk, just to clear misunderstandings. He mentioned you seemed unwell, again. She understood what he was doing. Not loud attacks this time. Quiet pressure, soft doubt, the kind meant to make her question her own purpose. He tried to reclaim the narrative, to paint her as fragile, confused, unstable. The same playbook he had used before, only gentler, more calculated. One evening, as she walked out of a small office building after speaking to a former engineering consultant, she noticed a black sedan parked across the street. The window lowered just enough for her to see Damian's familiar silhouette. He did not call out to her. He did not step out of the car. He only watched her. The message was clear. I see you. I know you are moving. Amara's heart tightened, but her steps did not falter. She walked past him without looking back. Reaction was what he wanted. Fear was the leverage he counted on. She gave him none. She kept collecting, gathering receipts, time-stamped emails, certification requests, archived project drafts. The evidence grew into something that no longer just hinted at fraud. It traced it, defined it, named it. Still, one piece was missing. The document that connected Damian directly to the forged environmental certification used to sway larger investors. Weeks passed before she found the lead she needed. A former administrative coordinator had moved to a small town 2 hours outside the city. It took nearly an entire day to get there. Amara walked from the bus stop to a modest house with an overgrown yard, her legs aching, hunger humming dull and steady in her stomach. The woman at the door hesitated when she saw her. Recognition flickered, then caution. I do not want trouble, she said quietly. I am not here to cause trouble, Amara replied. I am here so the truth does not disappear. The woman stared at her for a long moment. Something in Amara's eyes must have spoken louder than any argument could. She stepped aside and let her in. Inside, she opened a small locked drawer and pulled out a thin file, worn at the edges, tape holding one corner together. The original certification request, typed, dated, signed, and fingerprinted on the back during submission. Damian's fingerprint, the final piece. Amara held the document carefully, like something alive. Everything she had endured had led to this exact moment. What had been broken did not stay broken. It had been rebuilt, and now it was nearly time to bring everything into the light. The morning Amara walked into the Glass District Tower, the sky outside Ironwood Hall was covered in a slow gray mist. It did not feel gloomy. It felt like the quiet before a truth finally speaks. She carried no lawyer, no bodyguard, no entourage. Only her leather folder, worn from months of travel, conflict, exhaustion, and silence. Lionel Graves' office sat at the top floor overlooking the city, a room built for power. But today, power had shifted, quietly, patiently, step by step, into the hands of a woman who refused to break. Lionel stood when she entered. Ms. Sinclair, please sit. His tone was not cold. It was measured, professional. He was not interested in sympathy. He wanted clarity, facts, truth. Amara respected that. She sat, placed her folder on the table, and then she opened it. No theatrics, no raised voice, no panic or anger, only calm. These are the records from the Clarkson project you approved last year, she said. Invoices, property transfers, subcontractor payments, labor logs. These pages show where the money entered the accounts, where it disappeared, and who signed off on the transfers. I visited every office involved. I spoke to every assistant, every junior accountant, every site manager. She slid documents across the table one by one. Lionel reviewed them slowly, carefully. His fingertips paused when he saw familiar signatures. His eyes narrowed when he recognized certain shell company names. A long silence filled the room, not uncomfortable but heavy. A silence where truth rearranges the ground beneath people. "And you are certain this is authentic?" Lionel asked. "I had everything cross-referenced with public filings and archived ledgers," Amara replied. "Every timestamp is verified. Every payment trail leads back to the same point." Lionel exhaled once, quiet, controlled. Then he picked up the phone. "Bring Damian Davenport to my office, now." There was no warmth in his voice. No room for negotiation. Minutes later, Damian walked in. Perfect suit, confident stride. But he froze when he saw Amara sitting across from Lionel. His jaw tightened, but he forced a smile. "Well," he said lightly, "this is unexpected." Lionel did not return the smile. "Sit." Damian sat. Lionel spoke simply. "Miss Sinclair has presented documentation tying you directly to the fraudulent diversion of corporate funds over the last 18 months. I have reviewed the signatures. I have reviewed the accounts. I want your explanation." Damian's confident posture dissolved. His hand twitched. His mouth opened, closed, opened again. "This is taken out of context," he said. "Those accounts were approved. The board signed off. She is twisting things because she—" "Stop!" Lionel's voice cut clean through the room. Damian fell silent. Lionel turned to Amara. "Thank you. You may leave the documents with me." Amara nodded. She stood. She did not look at Damian. She did not need to. Her silence was louder than anything she could have said. As she reached the door, Lionel spoke again, his voice steady, unshaken. "I will be initiating a federal audit and notifying the Department of Financial Regulation. Effective immediately, all Davenport assets will be frozen pending investigation." Damian's breath caught in his chest. "Lionel, you cannot be serious. I can fix this. We can—" Lionel did not look at him. "This company's integrity will not be compromised. You made your choices." Amara stepped into the hallway. She did not feel triumph. She did not feel gloating satisfaction. She felt something quieter, deeper, steadier. Alignment. Truth moving back to where it belonged. As she walked through the lobby, the same employees who once whispered, doubted, and dismissed her now watched with a different expression. Respect, recognition, something close to awe. No spotlight, no announcement, no dramatic speech. Just a woman who refused to break. And now the world had finally seen her. 2 years had passed since the storm that had tried to break Amara Holt. The city streets that once felt cold and unwelcoming now seemed to echo with possibility. Amara's name carried weight, but not because of fame or media attention. It was respect she had earned quietly, with precision, patience, and unwavering skill. She had opened her own firm, Holt & Partners, dedicated to designing homes and community spaces that truly served those in need. Affordable housing projects, community centers, and safe spaces for families became her focus, transforming neglected neighborhoods into vibrant places where life could flourish. Her office buzzed with activity, but there was a calm determination behind every decision. Employees looked to her, not just for direction, but for inspiration, witnessing how someone who had been pushed to the edge could rise higher than anyone had imagined. She did not boast about her past struggles. Her work spoke for itself. The little girl from the train station, Olivia, now a steady presence in her life, moved freely around the office, her laughter filling spaces that had once been silent and empty. Amara had not formally adopted her yet, but Olivia knew she had found safety, care, and a home with someone who truly understood loss and resilience. Their bond had grown quietly, rooted in shared trust rather than words. Meanwhile, Damian Cross was serving his sentence, his empire dissolved, assets frozen, and reputation irreparably damaged. There was no need for Amara to gloat or to publicly celebrate. The justice she had worked toward over months had quietly reshaped the future, for herself, for the families Damian had wronged, and for everyone who believed in integrity over arrogance. Amara often walked past the neighborhoods she had helped rebuild. Children played in parks she had designed, and families moved into homes she had carefully planned to be both safe and beautiful. The satisfaction she felt was not in revenge. It was in seeing her vision realized, in knowing that patience, intelligence, and dignity had built something far more enduring than any fleeting wealth. Through it all, Amara understood that strength was not loud or flashy. It was consistent, patient, and principled. She had reclaimed her life, restored justice, and created a legacy that no betrayal could erase. And quietly she had shown the world that the woman who had once been underestimated was now unstoppable. Amara stood quietly at the edge of a playground, watching children laugh and chase each other across the open space. The homes surrounding the park bore her mark, carefully designed, welcoming, and filled with light. Every line, every corner, every window reflected the precision and thought she had poured into rebuilding what Damian Cross had tried to destroy. Her eyes drifted to Olivia, now confidently guiding a younger child by the hand, her laughter ringing clear and joyful. Amara remembered the first moment they had met at the train station, the little girl's words piercing her heart. "You have no home and I no mother." Back then, loss had seemed endless, and the weight of injustice unbearable. Now, standing in the midst of life and growth, Amara felt the quiet satisfaction of someone who had taken every setback and transformed it into purpose. The world had tried to take everything from her, her career, her reputation, her stability, but instead, she had rebuilt herself. Not through anger, not through revenge, but through relentless focus, integrity, and vision. Families thrived in the spaces she had created, and children ran freely in the light-filled streets that had once been shadows of despair. Amara smiled softly, letting the moment settle over her like a gentle wave. Justice had been served, a legacy had been built, and hope had been restored, not just for her, but for everyone who had believed in her and her work. The woman who had once been underestimated had quietly become unstoppable, and the foundation she had laid would endure far beyond any fleeting victory. If this story inspired you, support the channel by liking this video and subscribing. Share your thoughts in the comments. We would love to hear how you turned challenges into strength.